The thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Justice requires us to remember when any citizen denies his fellow, saying his color is not mine, or his beliefs are strange and different. In that moment, he betrays America.
Be nice and patient and continue to pray. In 100 or 200 years, the problem will work itself out.
I believe that truth is the glue that holds government together. Not only our government, but civilization itself.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished, and the rights of one man are threatened.
America is never wholly herself unless she is engaged in high moral principle. We as a people have such a purpose today. It is to make kinder the face of the nation and gentler the face of the world.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Through much of the last century, America's faith in freedom and democracy was a rock in a raging sea.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.
Why, I loved it. I especially love that last statement, So, hey, welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Welcome. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Hi, everybody in the chat and everybody coming in. Oh, I'm looking forward to an interesting discussion. It's going to be about one of those boring things people don't like to really get into the nuts and bolts of, but I'm fascinated with. Oh, I am that nerd. Political. I have quite a few friends that are into it too. Brilliant being one. But I especially love that intro in the part where the rebuilding of America, just buckling down and getting to the work of it. That's going to be pretty hard in the climate that we're in right now. It's almost impossible since no one can agree about anything. It's really hard, but I still have hope, as naive as I am. But yeah, yes, Mrs. Cassandra, that be V. There he is.
That be me.
They just recognized it. Hey, Record, thanks for the extra otters, and thank you for feeding them too. We don't want them going amok, so thank you for that. But yeah. So V, we're going to talk about. Did you see this week? I mean, you and I are always looking at what's going on during the week, along with High Inquisitor and several others. Just what goes on weekly and going on, reading the papers and articles online. Do they even call them papers anymore? What do they call it? Online social media, with the post and the press and all of that. What is it? Mainstream media, I guess we should say.
Mainstream medias, yeah.
Yeah.
Digital media.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's where I get all my news now. I don't watch television. I don't even watch the cable channels, because they're all... It's one side or the other, and I couldn't find one that was just told you everything, just the facts, Jack. It doesn't exist anymore. Actually, I like some of them.
Facts.
Yeah, I like MSNBC, or I used to, but it does really. Some of the commentators are just into slamming, when it comes to politics instead of just giving out the information. Well.
Yeah, I think in today's current journalistic media, a lot of core ways that media journalism was journalism back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I sound old.
We do,
was
but I was just gonna. You want to hear old? I was gonna mention Monroe, or Morrow, or all of that,
right.
and everybody's gonna go, what? Who? Yeah, when it was actually offensive, if they actually gave opinion about something and didn't just stick to the facts, like they wouldn't be doing their
Or,
job. Yeah.
right, or pushing back against the interviewer's opinion and saying, no, that's not right. This is not what happened. Or can you explain why this happened? That's not happening anymore.
Mm.
But anyway, I am looking forward to another week of hearing about Trump and hearing about all of the shenanigans in Congress and everything. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, please
I'm
make
glad.
it stop.
I'm sorry to tell you that that's exactly what we have to talk about today. So, buckle up, Buttercup, because it's almost all Trump today. Because just recently, he actually when I say Trump, there's so many different cases, and I guess I should say this, out front first. We're going to have to be very specific about which actually indictment in which actual case, and whether it be civil or criminal that we're talking about, because unfortunately there is just so much. And I say unfortunately, truly, for me, that is quite unfortunate that there's so much out there on him right now. Um, because it takes so long for the justice system. Some of this stuff is years old. And
Yeah.
I'll evidence that with this. I will actually support that statement with this. If we go back to one of the criminal, there are only 2 criminal indictments currently with Donald Trump's name on them. Okay, just 2. One of them involves falsifying business records during the campaign back in 2016. All right, this is 2023, and we're just getting to the part where they got a grand jury and all of that. Now, a lot of people will say, well, that's just because that's how slow the justice system is. No, it's not that slow. I mean, it could take a year, sometimes 2, to get an indictment. But because he was the president, and because, it was very political and there was a lot more involved, you can't just willy-nilly just go indict anybody without taking all of the circumstances into
Well,
consideration.
what circumstances are there though? Like everyone says, well, he was the president, right? So
True.
so does he get special treatment? And everyone says no, he shouldn't get special
No,
treatment. So what
I would
is it?
say yes and no, because if that's a valid question, Brilliant, I have actually thought about this deeply. Yes, he does deserve some special consideration in that light. For any sitting president to actually be under scrutiny for criminal offenses while representing our whole country to the free world is a problem. Is a huge problem. So I understand their concerns with coming forward too quickly on things and taking their time, and why they wouldn't want that. You've got to admit, and especially since you're not American, what that looks like, and why America might take some protections in how our laws are in preventing that from being out like that.
Well,
Not that we agree
because
that he's above the law. He's not. It's a timing thing, okay?
on the converse to that, because I am not American, I can get to see outside of America's view on this, right? So it's the flip side of the coin here, where you guys are trying to protect the presidential ideologue from within, whereas outside we can see what damage has been done,
Sure. Mhm.
right?
Yep. Yeah,
Mrs. Cassandra, we are not going into 9.5 inches. We'll just leave it at that.
yeah, but I will say this, Mrs. Cassandra. When he was indicted, I'm not ignoring it. I just don't think Hunter Biden is the answer to everything that we're looking at here. And it's not going to stop me from talking about the actual charges against other people, to bring up how people are feeling that perhaps Hunter Biden didn't have charges, or this or that or the other thing. When there were charges, I brought them up. Okay, but like if you want to talk Hunter Biden, we could also, like, I could swing it back and say, let's talk about, Marjorie Green actually putting his penis on display in
A
Congress.
private citizen.
For what purpose? A private citizen? Like, that's just, you know, beating people up with an issue. If there's criminal stuff there, they're going to find it. As a matter of fact, the person responsible, the head of the criminal investigation into Hunter Biden, has offered to come to Congress and speak, and they won't talk to him because they just want the narrative out there that nothing's being done, but they don't actually want to get the answers because they aren't the answers that they want. So, and I know you're just like taking a piss, and I'm just saying I'm going to flush it. That's all. Because there is nothing there. If there was something there, I'm not going to not speak about Trump because people think I'm not saying enough about Hunter Biden. There's nothing to say about Hunter Biden except for two things. What he was charged on, I reported on like I would anybody else. And two, I think everybody's making such a big deal about it as that's the answer to everything. And I'm saying, like, that just speaks more for what you're all trying to avoid. What the fact is, we're trying to talk about whether or not a sitting president should be charged. And I'm on the side that says no sitting president should be charged during a presidency. I agree with that because I understand why that notion is there. It's for more than just that person being above the law. Saying that a sitting president should not be charged during his presidency does not mean they're above the law. It's a temporary stay for being able to run the country and doing what's best for all of us in regards to how it is with the dealings with other countries and outside there, and just being able to function as a country during that presidency. I mean, surely that makes sense. Does that not make sense, Brilliant? I mean, to me, it makes perfect sense.
If the president committed a crime during their presidency and the Department of Justice were looking at charging, then I say wait till after the presidency is done. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't what is happening here. This is all after the presidency was finished.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from the first criminal charge in the Manhattan one, right? 2016.
Yeah. That is in Manhattan. Alvin Bragg, the district attorney there, put a 34 charge indictment against Donald Trump for the mislabeling and misappropriation of funds in regards of hiding information. It's all related to the Stormy Daniels scandal. It's all related and involving Michael Cohen. There's a lot of back and forth there between Trump and Michael Cohen. There were several other little cases that got dropped here and there about, Michael Cohen did go to jail for some things. Okay. And
Yes.
he has then given information that is what he was asked to do and how he was asked to do it. And it actually just comes to doing with mislabeling funds for other purposes than what they were used for. And here's the thing. It does seem like nitpicking, except for it is against the law during an election or during a campaign to actually do that. We have laws like that for a reason, so that people can't influence other people, this way and out without everybody knowing. There's supposed to be transparency. Okay, it is one of the foundations of makes the system work the way that it does. So for those saying it's nitpicking to do that, well, they're only calling it what it is. I mean, you can put it whatever you want, but if you were doing the right thing, then why are there 34 charges of you calling it something else than what it was? And why are you trying to misappropriate this, that way? Because, and from the statements that are in the statements, and I'm not speaking out of turn here, just from the affidavits and the statements that have come forward, they knew what they were doing. They they mislabeled it on purpose and said so it wouldn't become a bone of contention.
Well,
so it wouldn't. That's illegal.
So it wouldn't change the election outcome.
Well, it didn't want to look bad. They were bribing people to be quiet about stuff, which happens all the time. That's not the crime. I mean, that is a crime. Bribery of a public official is a crime. If it's there are bribery crimes. But to tell Stormy Daniels, hey, I'll give you a couple of bucks, just don't talk about me, they would have a hard time actually putting charges on him for that. That's done in politics every damn day.
No, right,
Okay.
but using
Yeah.
campaign finances to talk to tell Stormy Daniels to do that, that's the crime.
Is right, or to tell someone else. Here's the problem: to act in a conspiracy to tell somebody else to do it under guise of being legal fees and things like that. Yes.
Yeah.
That's where the crimes are. Okay. And that's why it's an indictment of criminal charges and not just a civil suit of, oh, you tarnished my name or you did something I didn't like. It's not a civil suit. It's a criminal suit. It's against the penal code. Okay. It's against the law, what was done. And this is where you're right. There's such an outreach. Well, you can't do that because he was president. Well, this was before he was president. Okay. They still gave him the grace because when it all came forward, he was voted in. Okay. If anything, he is getting special treatment, Brilliant, but he's getting special treatment in regards to everyone taking their time and being as cautious as possible to do the right thing, to make sure he pays for his crimes, but to do it in the right way. So in that way, I do agree he's getting special treatment. Well, he's crying that they're all just witch hunting on him. Believe me, if it was a witch hunt, this would have been over years ago. Like, yes, there's plenty out there they could brought up on him.
If this was a witch hunt, there would be no evidence.
Right, but there's evidence, and there's people speaking
evidence
on it. Right. Okay. It's hard because I don't want to sit up here and act like I'm just going to be like a Trump basher, although I do not have much support for a lot of the actions that are being taken by him or any of the statements that he's making. I can't really support anything that's coming out of his mouth because it's all really just rhetoric and bullshit right now. There is no real witch hunt. If anything, all of the departments involved, and there is a special prosecutor now, they had to actually bring forward he's had special prosecutors while he was president too, to investigate and to do things. And when he did it, they were the best thing ever because they would get down to the truth. But accordingly, if it has anything to do with them, then it's the worst thing ever because of what they're finding. Now, I have to trust that Jack Smith is not going to charge him for anything he didn't do. Okay? Because the last thing a special prosecutor wants on their reputation is to go forward with charges that can't be made. If anything, they have to take more care and more caution and go through a much more horrendous process to get those charges made. So the fact that Donald Trump has been indicted twice in federal court is a big thing. One in the documents case, which I'm sorry, that's not a little thing. People saying everybody does it. Yes. Every single sitting president has had documents that needed to be found and brought back. The difference is they cooperated and let them brought back. They didn't move. Right. They didn't move dozens of boxes from place to place in an effort to hide them after being asked for them. They did not go forward and ask employees to destroy things. And I don't think there are any other tapes of other sitting officials talking about private documents to people who have no right to hear about them. We're talking about assistants and just supporters. Yes.
Not private documents, Claire. Classified.
Classified.
Documents.
We're talking about classified documents during an actual offense that we were doing with a country, some kind of defense, plans or offense plans. We're talking about serious damaging to the country information that shouldn't get out. And he's just talking to anybody about it. Okay, no one in that phone call that they have recorded had the clearance to hear any of that. Clearance is there for a reason. And the people that are all just like, oh, it's a red-blue thing, it's a Democrat-Republican thing. No, it's not. It's an individual thing to us Americans, to everybody in the chat who's an American. If you don't think that's a violation and putting us at risk somehow, I don't know. I see it. I see the risk there, and I see why the laws are so strict about it. Okay, and I just don't see why one man thinks that the rules just don't apply to him, and he's allowed to do whatever he wants. Like he is, but not without consequence. And the consequences, he has to be accountable for those actions, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Whether or not the documents, whatever, the court case, whatever, he made a decision to do this. He
Yep.
made a decision to withhold documents from the National Archive.
Exactly. And here's the thing: they did return a small portion of them, then submitted a signed affidavit from the attorney saying that everything was submitted. Then they received information later from other parties of Mar-a-Lago that there was still documents on site. But they weren't even hidden. They were out in the public, like everybody knew about them. They're actually showing an actual conspiracy to keep it all hidden. And that's the problem. And that's where the new charges come in. Because the new charges are basically, in a nutshell, that Donald Trump had asked some people that work for him. This man, D. Olivieri, for one, was actually contacting other employees and saying about the security tapes and getting rid of this whole server that does the security tapes for Mar-a-Lago, so there would not be any evidence, even though that evidence was already asked for under subpoena.
And what evidence is that? What are they claiming the evidence on the tapes is?
Well, the evidence on the tapes, they show the locations of the documents in several pictures. That's why the pictures of all of the documents and where they were are out, because they're all coming from actual footage from the security cams of Mar-a-Lago themselves. They're actually part of the indictment. Okay.
And do they also not show the movement of those documents?
They do, which is why D. Olivieri is actually charged, because he's been speaking with the government according to the articles and according to the indictment paperwork that were filed. He's been speaking with the government on and on since before January, and he, contrary to the testimony of others and the actual supporting of the documentation of the videos in the tapes, he's been giving false testimony. He's been lying to them. Okay. And so, like, your best bet is to come forward about all of this, but it's actually going to be pretty bad, because if they can prove that he knew what he did, then he went and he falsely testified against it and actually actively tried to destroy evidence, it's going to be a big problem. The government does feel pretty strongly about stuff like that. And it's all chargeable. And that's what the charges are to play. Now, the other person, Natu, who is also charged in the documents case with Trump, he's not the only one charged. There were several people that helped him keep this and helped him organize the moving of those documents from Mar-a-Lago to other places after they were requested. Now, that's the problem here. Okay. Had everything been returned, this wouldn't be going on. When people are out there saying you're just picking on Trump, no, I'm not. Okay. Biden returned everything. Pence returned everything. Obama, anybody that the archives asks for the missing stuff, we do have a tracking system. It gets returned. This stuff happens. They're walking around with confidential documents all the time. Presidents and the officials have lots they have to read and keep track of. I mean, it's going to happen. Nobody's asking anyone to be perfect. We're asking you to comply with the rules and regulations in regards to those documents before and after, and not to think you're above it. And unfortunately, the attitude of the Trump and the Trump whole system over there is that everything applies to everybody else but not me. I will do what I want. They belong to me. Okay. And there was an active conspiracy to keep that going. If you're in the right, you don't need to destroy evidence. If you're in the right, you don't need to pay people off not to talk about it.
Correct. If you're in the right, you don't have to defame the prosecutors and the justice system on social media.
Well, there are other, those are the two criminal cases that have been charged. There were 4 actual criminal investigations going on by both state and federal levels. And you probably know the other 2 that I'm going to mention, and we're not going to go into great detail of that, only to mention that they are going on, and both of them involve the state and the federal prosecutor, Jack Smith. The one of them is the federal January 6th in 2020 election inquiry, and that comes from the actual congressional January 6th hearings that we had and all the evidence that came forward, all the false testimony that came forward. There is a multiple other suits involved in that, but this one isn't related to Mr. Trump's efforts to retain power at that time, and what did he do in regards to it, and how did he set things in motion, actually focusing on him and the key players. The other one is the go ahead.
So looking at that January 6th one, so they're going after him for his insistence that certain aspects of the voting system and political system were incorrect, and that he is the rightful voted leader of the country.
True. And then there were, and when he said that, he has every right to say that if that's what he believed in the beginning. But then they held 3 different investigations, and they came from his campaign, they came from the federal government and the state itself. They all investigated it separately, all came to the same conclusion that no, not that would not have whatever they instances or whatever they were looking at did not actually turn any votes or cause an illegitimate election or anything of the nature of what they were saying, even their own investigation. But after receiving all this information, as the president would from all of the investigations,
Right.
he continually in meetings denied them, said that they were all wrong. This is what happened, and actually told people we're going forward with this other narrative. And actually, with as if, while in office, actually ran a PR campaign separately from it, but got a lot of people involved and was trying to actually have everything overturned. He actively contacted governors. He actively contacted election officials. They're all tapes. The one tape is very damning. Yeah. The one tape is very damning in regards to a conversation of saying, just find these votes. I need these votes. Just find them.
But that's the 4th case that we're coming up against now, isn't it?
No. That's in regards to the formal federal investigation. That's where that all comes into play. Now, there are other ones in regards to Georgia. That's very specific because there was specific targeting that they did in regards to the Georgia elections, and Georgia State may be bringing their own charges against them for that. Now, that is because Trump and the people that were helping him were actively trying to reverse the election status in Georgia, one-on-one. Okay. And so, yeah, I see where you think that one phone call, there is a similar phone call in Georgia, but that's not the one I was referring to.
That's not the one. Okay.
That's not the one. There were other ones where that person just didn't play. They were just like, yeah, whatever. And they actually testified into January 6th, and they're not under investigation, that governor, at all.
No.
Because of how they handled it, which is like they didn't run around saying, oh, look what he did. They just went like, that's not possible. Thank you. But,
Right. Okay. So
they didn't make a big deal. Yeah.
So Jack Smith's the special prosecutor for the January 6th case involving Trump, where he is trying to tie Trump with subversion of the government. Is that right? Or trying... What's he trying to link him with?
What he's trying to link him with a concerted effort to reverse the 2020 election and for actually conspiring to cause the events of January 6th.
So there's two parts to it.
It's kind of two in regards to it, yes. In efforts to, it's actually about him trying to retain power after the 2020 election in causing what happened on January 6, 2021, putting everyone's life in the congressional building at risk, inciting riots, that kind of stuff. But they're looking as to what were the concerted efforts that have it in, because as a president, he should have been actually trying to stop that rather than encourage that, because he still was president at the time. But he was
Right, because
actively trying to get the election not ratified. Okay.
okay,
Yeah.
to subvert the government's decision to change the handover to Joe Biden.
Right. But he was doing that after they received information that these claims weren't true. And it was, they had investigations, but he was still actively trying to do that. So I don't know. We'll have to see what the legal ramifications of that are. I mean, I just know how it looks on a level of, just trying to, do whatever you want and not really caring where the chips fall. But is that illegal? I don't know. He did put a lot of lives at risk, though. There was damage done. And here in America, the election process is is our foundation. Okay. It's the
Right.
foundation of our democracy. And to actually have the leader of our country at the time to say that that doesn't matter is quite offensive as an American to me. And that's not a matter of Trump bashing. That's just a matter of principle. If it is our founding and our foundation to democracy, it's for everyone. Okay, and not just when you don't like the way things go.
Exactly. And
There is no law, Mrs. Cassandra, that prevents him from running for president, even though he's indicted for criminal offenses. As a matter of fact, there's very little law in regards to, even if he is convicted, being able to run for president. It's the people that get to speak, and that's the thing. They need to look at everything. But I think some
right.
people are just seeing red or blue or pushing back, just like they want to do whatever, and not looking at the whole thing, or not looking far enough as to what it means for our country.
Right,
Because if
because he's
yeah, go on.
speculation on my part here, but he's on the cusp of seditious charges, right?
He's got sedition up for grabs in January 6th, inciting riot for the damage of your country, seditious behavior. Yes, he's got going against his country on January 6th. But in regards to the Manhattan criminal case, not the Manhattan criminal case, but the classified documents case in Florida, in regards to that case, he's got espionage charges on him there.
Right. But for the January 6th case, surely in your I don't know. I
Well,
don't
the
know if it would be in the
speculation, when you
Constitution.
use the word speculation, you're correct. Because here's the thing: the January 6th violators that are coming up on charges now that are being prosecuted, everyone that was involved in that riotous behavior, that's all that we can say, and the damage that they were done. Most of them
Correct.
all being convicted of seditious behavior. And so the precedent is being set. Well, if the ones that contributed and did it under his direction are being charged with seditious behavior, then why wouldn't the one directing it be charged with seditious behavior? That is the
Right.
speculation and what we
And
might think. Yeah.
that is what Jack Smith is trying to build a case for, I believe.
He has not said that in black and white, but it is pretty much like, wouldn't it be? I mean, if everybody else is getting charged that way. Yeah.
Well, I would imagine so. But then would that come under the Treason Act?
Well, it could, but that's a little iffy there too. You've got to be, the Treason Act is really tough because it talks about acts of war and things like that. That takes a much bigger legal mind than mine to
Right.
dissect. I would say that whatever they can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's what they're going to charge him with. And what I like
Oh,
about Jack
definitely.
Smith is there's nothing leaked out there on exactly where he's pinpointing anything. So it's really only our speculation to say seditious behavior. Who knows what he's going to come up with, because, as they should be, they're very close knit. That's why it's a sealed grand jury. Like,
Yes.
just this week, we were expecting another indictment on one of these. Okay. And the grand jury was very active, but we don't know who they're talking to and what they're doing and what they're going on, because it should be secret until it is, because you don't want to disparage an innocent person, or leak the case in any kind of way,
Grace
so
Case has a thought about couldn't run for president if you have a felony.
I'm going to have to check that out, but I remember the Tiger King saying he was going to run for president while he was locked up. You would think you couldn't, but I have to see if they actually put that down, you know. I mean, you can't vote if you've got a felony until you've done your time while you're serving. You know what I mean? So why would you be
Strange,
able to
isn't it?
vote? Why would you be able to run for president? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you,
Good
I
question.
just don't. I don't know. If anybody, I will look that up though, Grace. Like that's got me curious now. I would think not, but I really don't think there's something written in stone. Who knew that we would be here like that? Eh, you know, who would think? Who would think?
Who would think that we're at this point where we're discussing this about a president of the United States or even uh, a running candidate?
Hmm. I don't know, but it is definitely um it's a valid question, and there has been talk back and forth. I hear some people saying he shouldn't, that you can't, and I hear some people saying, well, there's nothing actually written in stone and it could be contested, you know. So it's definitely above my head currently.
Mm,
I've not done enough research on it to tell you the truth, you know.
yeah.
There are only certain felonies that will disqualify a person from running for president. Now, that's the person you should ask, Grace, because when it comes to that, Quiz makes sure he knows. Like, he goes and looks all of that up. Thank you, Quiz. You're welcome. I sent you, now that you're about, I sent you if you want to join us. But yeah, hello, Pragmatic Crystal. Thank you for joining us. And Liam, it's nice to see you. In Juju, I'm sorry if I didn't say hi to everybody in the chat as you were coming in. Icarus, thanks for joining us in Fishner. And we really just wanted to go over these particular two cases, the criminal ones that are coming forward, because they have new charges on them and new things. One in regards to the Mar-a-Lago documents case, and let me just call it that because everything else gets confusing. That one's in Florida, and that Judge Cannon, she moved the actual date of the trial to May of 2024. Okay, so there's
Okay.
quite a while, which is before the election. But if you know anything about following, oh, how come it? Oh, wait a minute, I have to go back to the other setting. This way. Okay, there
There
you
we
are.
go.
Okay, because
Hello.
I had a customized setting, so it blocked you. Sorry, Varian. Yes.
I
You
just
see.
wanted to post something in the private comments for you. You can post it to everybody else.
Oh, okay, sure. All right, let's see. Do you want it like out in public? Oh, the 14th. Okay.
Yep.
Let me just see. All right. So first, I'm going to read it. Whoop. Did you just remove yourself, or did something happen? Okay. All right.
Chris
So
Leslie jumped in and left.
thank you, Quiz, for bringing me the facts. And for everybody else, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector or of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as any executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection. Okay, so if he is guilty of this January 6th insurrection, he can't run. There you go.
Right.
Thank you. That's what that means, correct, Kai? Right?
But Judge Cannon seems to be leaving that very late in the election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And
This is a very big statement I'm trying to put. I had to cut it into a couple pieces, people, because it won't post, but let's just try to get it there. But that's it. It's the 14th Amendment, Section 3, if anybody wants to look it up, which Google will tell you right away. And there's a rebellion clause in there too. But that would turn him into a traitor. Is that the one, High, that has a lot to do with whether it's be war or not that's going on? I'm just gonna put the section down there for you all to look up. Oh, wait a minute. It didn't copyright, but anyway.
Let's see if I can find.
Yes, I'm looking too now, but thank you, Hi. Like it gets into typically. Yes, I'm sure. Because High Inquisitor brings a very valid point. You see, right now, all of this is documented in our amendments or anything, but the way SCOTUS has been going, some of that doesn't really matter, huh? But they're going to have to address it. It's going to go to higher courts. That's what we have. It's going to be fought back and forth, but it shouldn't be necessary, right? What I want to know is like, does everybody? I mean, how do you guys feel? I mean, I'm looking at it a little weird. I don't understand why people think he shouldn't be charged with things that people think he did wrong. Like, I mean, a court just found him guilty of sexual assault and defamation.
Right.
And he semantically is out there saying, well, that he's trying to re-sue that person for defamation because the court in New York didn't find him guilty of the R word. And it was
Well,
based even in the announcement of the actual verdict. It was announced as to the reason why. And you know the reason why? The way the penal code is written in New York, it had to actually be his penis.
correct.
And
I
she gave testimony that she wasn't sure at that time if it was his hands, his fingers, or his penis. So that's why
I
they
believe
put it
there
down.
that was just entered into Congress, the judge's reply on that very
Yes, they
topic.
did. Ted Lieu actually read it into the congressional record that it is actually law, and that is what decided this, not whether he was guilty of it or not. That actually, technically, he's still violation by a finger against somebody's will is still technically the same thing. It's how the code is written, and that's why I advocate all the time for the victims, and I do these trials that cover assault this way, because the way we all have documented it state from state, the way the penal code is written from state to state, and even from county to county, sometimes it is very difficult to get justice under these circumstances.
I
Okay.
believe the judge called it digital rape.
Exactly. That's exactly what he said. Judge Kaplan put out a statement in both of the Carroll cases right now, because there's still one going on when he was president. There were statements that he made while he was president that Jean E. Carroll is suing him for under defamation, because he is the one who made very bad character associations against her because she was telling something that happened to her personally, and she's saying it's true. And now she's got a court saying, yeah, they believe it's true. It's going to be pretty hard to fight it. But it doesn't seem like anybody cares. Like, everybody's like, oh, you're just trying to damage his reputation. Well,
no.
no.
Who is this everybody? Because I think it's the everybody that is saying Trump is damaging his own reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think Trump is saying that everybody is saying that it's damaging the reputation, but it's only Trump that's saying that.
Yep. It's just a little. Well, no, the Trump supporters are saying it too. Well, I guess Trump supporters are definitely going along the line of whatever, like Trump, is going with, because that's who they believe in. So I kind of understand that. Well, this whole thing of what gets me is this above the law thing, and I understand that he says, well, the law says this and the law says that. Well, he's not abiding by it. I mean, a legal system just convicted you, okay, guilty, and he's using semantics to try to make it look like it was a witch hunt. It's not exactly true, okay, and I don't know. It just that one really gets to me, because a lot of our laws do need to be rewritten, or at least amended in some way to make them more clear. That particular law there so it really damages the fact that it makes it difficult for even men who are assaulted to come forward because of how the assaults happen. Okay,
Right.
when
If they
they're
class
either
it as
yeah,
if they class it as penetration, then it doesn't apply to
exactly.
a man, does it?
But right,
Um,
it's so many different levels of it. Like, not, I mean, that's a whole nother stream there, for sure.
yeah, off top.
Definitely. Yeah. But it had, you know me, it's one of my topics. Everybody knows that. You start bringing up consent in those kind of laws, like, and I just go like, let's just talk about the unfairness and bias there in the way those laws are written from state to state and how they change. And there are tons of victims, both women, men, and even children, who do not get the justice that they deserve simply for a couple of words in how the legislation is written, and it needs to change. It
But
definitely needs to change. Yeah, to be more
okay,
inclusive and to cover violation as a violation. Yeah, well,
all right.
all right.
So January 6th, we've covered.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And the
Last
Georgia,
one,
yeah, Georgia. Yeah.
Georgia.
That's dicey because that brings in some very special characters, lawyers who should know better, actually. One of them being Rudy Giuliani, who I'm very familiar with from being an East Coaster. You're also very disappointed in him of late. There was a day when I would have voted for Rudy Giuliani for anything, and that's pre 9/11, and even during 9/11. Those of you that know what here in America what happened and how he united New York and everyone in the whole country, he did his best. I'd say he did some really good work there, and I'm not going to take that away from him. But I am going to say, what the hell happened, Rudy? Because where'd you go? I don't recognize you anymore. I don't recognize you anymore. Like, he just put out, and the reason I'm saying that is like he just put out a statement in legal court admitting that he can't contest what he just did against Ruby and Shed, the Georgia election of workers who they accused of changing ballots and doing all kinds of nefarious stuff. They did multiple speeches on it, multiple printing, social medias everywhere in regards to the campaign. Rudy Giuliani himself saying he knew it for a fact, out there saying it. He got sued by those two workers civilly, and he just did a statement that says he's not going to contest that his statements were false. Meaning he's got no evidence to prove anything he said about them was true, so he can't fight that part of the defamation case. So he's giving in on that part only. And he's like, what was that you said, V? He's thrown himself on the mercy of the jury to see that there are no punitive damages or something. Because
Right. So the only other recourse he may have, he may have other recourses, but one of them is let them all have that. Have it, have at it. Yes, whatever I said was not correct. Now you have to prove damages.
That's it. But here, it's not the same as when it's a public figure. If it was the other way around and Rudy Giuliani was suing them for something they said, as a public figure, he would have to prove that it cost him in reputation and monetary concern outwardly. Okay, that it damaged him. They don't necessarily have to prove monetary damage. They just get to come and say how it physically changed their lives and caused them emotional stress. And from what I've heard, and a lot of people make fun of them for it, and I know I'm going to take some heat here, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'll stand behind what I'm saying. If you think having a public official running a presidential campaign come out and call you all kinds of names, a traitor to your country, a violator of the election system, a not true patriot, someone trying to damage the system, a untrustworthy person, a liar, a thief, a meddler.
Are we talking about Trump now?
No, we're talking about the two women. This is the statements that these public officials made against them. If you think that didn't affect their lives in a small town, where they actually had the respect of being election workers and had that trust and were honored by that, it's not like they could speak out and not have anything. They actually gave testimony that they couldn't even go out and get a cup of coffee without getting spit on by people because of what these men said.
Literally?
Literally. Literally.
Literally spat on.
Literally, their house was getting things sent to it. They had their shades pulled. They had to they couldn't go anywhere. There were a few people that supported them, but nobody wanted to be around that kind of like attacking and stuff like that. It was actually almost dangerous to be around them at the time. Because if you think that people who don't stand behind the Trump organization weren't outwardly, if they saw them out in publicly saying things to them and doing things to them, they lost their jobs, they lost their ability to work. Come on. They did suffer from these, and there should be some kind of accountability, especially since we know for a fact none of it was true, and that's proven. And Rudy Giuliani can't even come up as a lawyer with a defense against it. If you're writing a letter like that saying, I'm not going to contest that part of the charge, as a lawyer, that means you know you can't prove it. Come on. That's a lawyer. Of anything
Oh,
else, I mean, he's not actually lawyering anymore because of his actions. He
well, he got
can't lawyer anymore. But
disbarred.
we're talking about somebody who knows the law and knows the opportunities, and in his recent behavior would say he's just shady enough to try to look for a really good loophole against these women. But to put that forward, he knows that it's not going to fly, and that he's actually consenting that, okay, those statements may not have been true. I can't prove those statements are true, so I won't contest that part of the charge. It doesn't admit that he was lying. It just admits that he can't prove it was true, so he legally has to not contest. Yeah.
Do you think that Rudy could possibly cry bankruptcy?
Mm.
Because he couldn't pay for the discovery.
Well, he said that, but the judge says, well, you sure do have everything else going on out there for you and everything, you know. He's not been, yeah, true. He's not lawyering right now. He's not been disbarred though, but he's under suspension. He's still not lawyering, but he's not disbarred, you know. Rudy, I didn't say he was disbarred. No, because that's
No,
not
I
true.
did.
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
faux pas.
Okay. Yeah, he's still under indefinite suspension while they try to figure it out what to do with him. And I'm sorry if I'm coming across loud. My new mic is like really ooh. So you guys let me know if it gets too loud. I see your comment, Juju. You just got to tell me if it sounds like I'm shouting. I'm really not, because I'm not like really, you know, that passionate about it. To me, this is just like common sense. You know, the stuff, especially the stuff with Rudy Giuliani. You know, this is just. I think if there was something he could say about it besides no contest, he would have. But he can't. It's going to be a tough case. And actually, I hope the women win it. Actually, I do. As much as people think that they're in it just for the money, I do think that their lives were affected. And
No,
I do think that does have value. I don't think people should be allowed to go up on a public campaign thing and pick on innocent Americans who aren't part of the political system. Like, let's get that straight. They weren't talking about officials. They weren't talking about people they were in contest with as a politician. They were regular citizens doing their job. And
correct. And
that
I
should
agree.
be wrong. And when they're
Well,
wrong about it,
they weren't even doing their job. It was voluntary.
exactly, to be part, well, you do get paid. I don't know in that state if you do. Here in New Jersey, if we work the official in elective, say you like work the polls, okay, you know, you
Right.
run the books or whatever, and that's something like what was going on there. We get a stipend for the day if you sign up for it in advance, okay, because they need people to work it, so they do pay them a certain amount of money. So it's not like, and yet there are other parts of it that are all totally volunteer, totally. Okay.
Right.
So, oh, thank you, Liam. Thank you, Juju. I'm sorry, I saw it and I wanted to make sure I wasn't blowing your eardrums out, Juju. Yeah. Yeah. Because I am trying to be considerate to everybody. Yeah.
But it certainly discourages the type of rhetoric that Rudy Giuliani has been putting out. Certainly discourages other election employees not to do it.
Exactly. Well, it did
But-
discourage them not to do it, but that's not why he did it. Do you
No,
think
no,
that's
he did it for no. I'm saying he did it for totally different reasons. Like he did it so that Trump could be re-elected. in
Believe
his
me,
eyes.
and if the investigation showed anything, I'd be saying the opposite. I'd be saying, why aren't those women being charged? I would, but there's not. The investigation proved it, and they told Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump and everybody involved in that campaign slanderous stuff that it wasn't true, and they still went forward and did it, and that's why there are charges being filed. That's why people are putting civil suits on them, because after giving the information that you may be incorrect, you chose with intent and malice to defame those people anyway. Now that's a
Right.
stick it wicket. Legally, that's a slam dunk. Because
But
they
that
did
that
receive the
seems
information that it wasn't true. And they went
that seems
forward
like a
with it.
highly common theme happening here, isn't it, Claire? Where
It
they've
is.
been told information, the information that they've been saying is wrong, they've been corrected on it, and they've continued to say the wrong information.
They will, but like I said, yeah, I hope you're not referring to what I think you're referring to, because I really don't want to go
No,
into that. But as
I'm
a general
I'm
statement,
referring to Trump. I'm
okay,
referring to Trump. I'm referring to uh, anyone who knew that the election was anyone who was told that the election was fair, balanced, and secure, and then continued to say that it was not. That's what I'm referring to.
all shouting must be done in lowercase. I like that. I like that, Rocket Couch. Okay. Um.
So, what do we have? We have 4
They was like,
Trump.
I don't. We have 4 investigations going on, but there's so many civil cases that I have to tell you. Just on the Trump side alone, I'm following 23, like
Oh
23 Trump
goodness!
civil cases. Because they're more involved. Like when Trump says it's a witch hunt, then why are they actually prosecuting all of the others involved with them? I mean, in regards to the document case alone, now we have many people are actually involved in that, and they are in the January 6th looking at a whole lot of people. A whole lot of people are
Right.
being looked at for that. Now some are cooperating, as they did during the January 6th hearings, and coming forth and saying what they know. Okay. Listen, I know it seems a little hypocritical, and I'll put this out to people from other countries other than America who may be watching or in the chat, or Virillion sitting right here with me. That I know it looks hypocritical for us to be complaining about the president or anybody being upset and causing some kind of riot because they don't like what's going on, since that's what our country has done from the start. I mean, isn't that how we started? I mean, isn't it? We are based on a democracy that says if we don't like what's going on, then we, the people, should speak up. But in this case, it wasn't we, the people. It was one person acting like a dictatorship to mold the people. And there's a difference there. And I ask you all to take a look at it, especially the Americans. Okay? It does look hypocritical when we say there shouldn't be an insurrection, when a whole damn country is nothing but little mini insurrections everywhere. It's what we're based on, our democracy, our freedom of speech, our ability as the people to unite and come forward and say, we don't like this. It ain't the way we roll. We need to change it.
Okay, but here's
Okay?
the difference. The difference is that you're using the voice of the people to create a new country with ideals for the people. The
Exactly.
difference is that the January 6th insurrection was not for the people.
Exactly. And here's the thing. He was actually going against the will of the people. That election was the voice of the people. Can we agree on that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
The
So
election was the voice of the people.
that's why there's something wrong with it. Because as the leader of our country, he's supposed to support that founding right of all of us, and not
Right.
make it that all of us just don't know what we're doing. Because of course, we meant to vote for Trump, right? Yeah. He's just correcting us. We meant to do what he wanted. No, I know I'm making a
Well,
snarky remark, but you get my point, right? Yeah.
yeah, I think American politics is definitely a lot more ingrained in certain aspects of us versus
Mm-hmm.
them. That, and this is the culmination of that. I believe,
Yep.
um,
And
but
that's
that's a
yeah.
whole
Yeah,
different topic.
I'm gonna pull this up. We're gonna end on this note. Such a violent thing, but yes, we're gonna end. We're gonna have this for a little bit because this is a very good point, and I thank you for bringing it up. So I didn't have to. Well, is it a core part of the American system meant to protect its citizens in case the future becomes a government becomes a dictatorship? Yes.
Correct.
And I ask everyone to take a look at this. Now, I've already got a reputation as being rather left. I actually think I'm rather central because I like to look at all sides of it. And I no longer, I'm going to put it on record, have a party of affiliation for that reason. I'm not a Democrat, nor am I a Republican because I want to look at all sides. All right. But I actually feel strongly about that comment by the Rocker Couch because here it is. What he did was to say my way or the highway. The voice of the people doesn't matter. You're going to do what I want, and I will find a way to get what I want and disregard all the laws and regulations we put in there to protect the will of the people. He's
I
actually acting like he's above the law. And in that way, yes, like a dictatorship. And that is what I want people to start looking at. When the argument is, nope, you just have to do it my way. And I can do whatever I want because you're just going against what I want. Okay? They're not doing it legally and they're not doing it the right way. We need to look at the behaviors of who's doing what and who's actually trying to change the legal system to be more fair for everyone or make it work. If he's saying that the system's broken, well, help fix it. You don't burn it all to the ground and say it doesn't matter because it's what our foundation is built on. What would we
well,
have?
you don't. It's not so much burning it to the ground. It's mm, changing it to force your own ideals on other people.
I won't leave, Grace, until you're done shopping. I'm sure we can talk for another 20, 15 minutes, whatever you need. I was just like, I don't want to bore you people, but you're still here. So it means some of you actually don't get bored with politics, which is encouraging to me. Actually, I like that, and I'm like that, I've got English in Australia, New Zealand, people from all over our country that talk about this. And a lot of my friends are Republican. It's even some of my friends are actually Trump supporters or do think that there's something in some of it that appeals to them. Okay.
I think
Yeah.
Trump's charismatic and rhetoric does appeal to certain people. Uh,
Yep.
but
I will say it is encouraging to know that anyone can run for president and win. This man
well,
won. This one man won an election on saying he was a wonderful businessman with over 132 failed businesses, 30 more bankruptcies of file, and I think it was 372 civil suits for not running his business properly in regarding private suits of people saying they didn't get paid or he violated the contract. And yet he got voted in as a solid businessman who could actually fix our country. You see, people don't look at the details. They
but
don't know who they voted
no,
for.
they,
Yeah.
right. It seems like I was alluding to before that the us versus them, Democrats versus Republicans, once Republican, always Republican, once
Mhm.
Democrat, always Democrat. The my family is part of that label is who my family is. It's a
Mhm.
monkia. It's right.
What is true? Actually, political affiliation, just like religious affiliation, has passed down from family and generation to generation to generation. It does. It does. Um,
Right. And
because
even
people, that's where you get your information, right? Talking around the dinner table with your family, with your friends. Yeah. It's how
yeah,
you feel inclusive, how we form our,
Grace, I don't think he is a successful businessman. How do you own a casino and go bankrupt?
Unfortunately, Grace, from the East Coast here, like he has success. I will grant you this, Grace. I see what you're saying. He does have some successful businesses, but he's not the successful businessman of them, because not many businesses get told that they're no longer able to operate in a whole state because of their illegal activity. Okay, not many of them are not able to hold charitable affiliations anymore, or actually qualify to be a charity or work for the charity, or because of how they did it. Okay, so I do get that. You're right. He's not the only one, and there's two sides to a coin. There are some successes there, but I'm just saying that it wasn't looked at very fully. Okay, a lot of those businesses were actually designated as criminally corrupt. That's different than failing. Okay. Yes, King Harry is practically a statistical impossibility, and you are actually correct there. Mrs. Cassandra, Meghan Markle will never be queen. You're just gonna have to live with that. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on in the chat, but that's crazy.
They're
That's just
talking.
crazy talk. That's crazy talk, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, America's gotten past all of that. We've left the
Yes.
shackles of the monarchy
Yes.
and forged a new land towards
Although
the west.
many of us Americans are still fascinated with it, though. I mean, like we follow what's going on with the royals, like as if it's like candy. Like many of us are. Like
I know.
as an American, I can tell you, I don't disregard my roots. I'm very involved in European culture and what's going on over there. I don't forget about it. I don't forget about it. I know why we left, and I'm wondering why, we should have been leaving to do something different and to make it better. But instead, we're doing the same damn thing we left England for. Like,
Right,
because
but under different
yeah,
names.
but that's a whole other stream on Christian nationalism and how we started our country, so we didn't get told on what religion we should be. And here we are in America doing the same goddamn thing right now, every day. It's just believe me, Liam, I see the hypocrisy of the whole thing. I actually do. I just, all I can say is we're young. We're still a young brat country. Like, what do we know? We're still like, what do we know? Really, there's got to be a better way. There is.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe the founding fathers thought there was be a better way. That's why they
Mhm.
drafted these documents. That's why they said they were malleable.
Mhm.
Right? To be able
There
to
was
change for the better way.
Yes, and they use those words malleable and not set in stone. Like, yes, they're not set in stone. They're supposed to go forward. And part of the problem is that there hasn't been adequate amending to fit the situation. And there's pros and cons to that. The, the pro being where you wanted to fit the situations that are going on more clearly and be applicable. And what they say is that by being more vague, they're more applicable to the growing situations as they change. And I get that. I get that premise.
Right.
But at the same time, they fall short when they actually allow me to be treated like a second-class citizen just because of my gender.
Well, you're second-class
Oh God.
citizen being 50% of the population. I mean, that doesn't.
Exactly. Or when they don't set in stone that equality is for everyone, regardless, not specific. Like, if you get specific about equality and say it's per woman or per a certain race, that's not good enough. It has to be equality for all. Like, it has to be written for
Claire,
everyone. Yeah.
Claire, don't you realize that because you're a woman and your Judeo-Christian value in life is to be in the kitchen and cook, that you're getting perfect life skills for that, and you're being able to cook, right? You're learning how to cook and clean, and those are life skills which DeSantis really, really thinks is important.
Mm. Oh boy. Man, jeez. Well, I'm a failure then. I'm just a total failure then, as a woman, because Damn, what did I know? I ran a successful business on my own, being the head of it and all alone, and made my money
No,
and broke glass
I think
ceilings. Yeah, look, what did I know? I mean, I could have stayed home and just cooked and you know did the
no,
laundry.
that that's
Damn.
another topic for a different political
Yeah, it
review, I
is. Like
believe.
I think I'm getting it like all. But you know what? I will say this about that. Sunday, Amy Hogan and I on Uncalled For will actually be addressing that because Pearl Davis got under my skin, and Pearl Davis seems to believe that I shouldn't have the right to vote because I won't work the Alaska pipeline. But I'm just telling Pearl Davis, nobody asked me to. So
Oh no, no,
like
I
I
think
didn't
you
know it
missed
was a requirement. I didn't. Yeah.
you missed the analogy there.
Oh, I did.
DeSantis with the education book.
Oh, about yes, which about everybody's place in the world.
No, about the slaves.
Oh well, it doesn't exist. We can't talk about that. DeSantis said slavery never happened. It's
No, no,
not
no.
good to talk about. He says
DeSantis,
it's not good to let anybody know about it because it's bad. It was bad, and it's better if we
but
act like it was never there.
but
Yeah.
now he's saying that the slaves received good life skills by being slaves, so that they could change horse hooves and things like that.
Oh, that's just like yeah, that's like the owners who said like they should be grateful that we're feeding them and taking care of them while we got them chained to our wagons.
Yes.
Yeah, like that.
Anyway,
Yeah. No,
off
I'm not.
topic.
Yeah, that's
That's
definitely off
that's.
topic. I'm not going there. Listen, all I can say about that is when we deny our history, we don't learn and grow. And if you don't let our children and everybody know what happened in our history, we are destined to keep repeating it and not doing better. I do agree that there's shame there, and it's not easy to deal with, and it's not an easy subject to try to say what should be done about any of it.
But the way to
But
move
denying
forward
it,
is to acknowledge it.
right? You don't deny it happened. I'm like that in my personal life and in my any kind of life. I think everybody's like that. Does it do you any good? I mean, to deny something happened, you got to own up
No.
to it and move forward. You got to actually deal with that history. You cannot rewrite history. Okay, and keeping people from learning about what happened is not the answer. Okay, they say it feeds the rhetoric of anger and this and that. Yes, and you think hiding it doesn't feed the rhetoric? Is it not going to make it more prominent? If you make it like a thing this is it, and you make it an educated discussion that people talk about the rights and wrongs about things, okay? It don't, you just talk about you don't judge the person sitting next to you for what somebody else did 100 years ago. Okay,
No.
these are
But
conversations. These are common sense conversations that shouldn't have to be had. But when they're trying to shove everything under the rug and going about it this way, it's just
well, when you try and change history like that to say that about benefits of the past, neglecting the abhorrent actions of those in control over that in the past, um, it it gives an excuse to be able to do it again.
it's true. It's true, and that's why I don't want to. I mean, we have to look back to the start of things. We have to look back. I mean, how can we even looking about our political divide right now and how our country is very very divided? We have to go back as in and look at how this happened before we can decide what we could even do about it. And you
Correct.
have to have all of that information. Just imagine if none of this was transparent. What if all of the elections we never got to hear see any of the documentation? We wouldn't know any of the history on anything that happened with any of our presidents or any of the even in the multicultural events that we were involved in. What if none of that history was there? How would we possibly be able to move forward with new decisions in how to do stuff? It just doesn't make any sense to me. The more they try to hide stuff or tell you don't look, for one, it just makes everybody want to look more. Well, two,
Yeah.
it makes the problem worse than it is. Slavery is bad. Hiding slavery is worse. Okay?
Yeah.
Slavery
Agreed.
happened. Okay? It's a mark we have to deal with. It happened. It was there. Okay? It's happened in many countries and they've all dealt with it and grown forward. We don't hide it. Okay? We just don't hide it. That's worse. didn't know you were a multicultural family there, Grace. Are they Canadian French? Do you speak a second language? That's like so cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't know her family came from Canada. But that's another point. Almost every person in America is an immigrant. I'm sorry, you started as an immigrant. All of us. All of us. Manitobans. Wow. That's pretty cool. But on that, brilliant. As an Australian, what do you think about the documents
That
case?
I'm
All
not an
right, you're not
Australian.
an
I'm an
Australian.
immigrant.
You're all right. You're a New Zealander who lives in Australia. So from both of your cultural contrary views, would you
Okay,
tell
what do
me?
I think?
I want well first two specific areas. Do you feel they were right to charge an ex-president in this case?
I
Number
think
one.
they have a right to charge anyone over it.
Okay. And then two, how do you feel about what does it look like on the outside to how it's progressing as far as how long it took and like where we're at now?
Compared to other countries where this has happened, the speed at which the United States has progressed through this event is light years behind what happens before in other countries.
Hmm.
It's like you're all walking on eggshells for an idea that is not purposeful for the situation. Like,
Yeah. It's like they are walking on eggshells. Nobody wants to do the wrong thing. It is unprecedented. It's never
but by
happened
not
before.
doing the wrong thing, you're doing the wrong thing.
True. By not doing anything, right. Well, you see, but it is taking a long time, but they are moving forward. I think they're trying to be cautious. I don't really blame them because they get tore up on all sides, no matter how we go forward with this. There's always going to be some people who think that you should never really go at an ex-president or a president in
Why?
that manner.
Because then that legitimizes future presidents to be able to do the same action.
Exactly, and that's why I think that it should be a very small percentage of people putting that forward if they actually sat and thought about it, what it
Right.
meant going
It's
forward, and
it's
what it meant
only
to the
bad.
president. Yeah,
It's only bad for them because it's on that political party. If it was on the other political party, it would be good for them.
exactly. hmm But this isn't good for anyone. Um,
No,
Number one, it's really hard to put a whole party back to representing someone, and I think that only happens because he was a representative as president for that party. Okay,
but
had
I disagree with that because I believe that it's the party that is also doing the problem.
yes, they are because they're not allowing the system to work the way the system is supposed to work. Um, there's been a lot of trying to derail it. Recently there was a Hail Mary filing um in regards to the Georgia case by Trump's lawyers to try to say that they couldn't use anything that he did while campaigning, any of the evidence while campaigning or while he was president or anything like that. Um, because it would be so disparaging to his character that he wouldn't recover and that would affect the election. Now, the election is like a trump card for him because you're supposed to be free. Any citizen is supposed to be free to run in the election unencumbered by any of this without people coming at them just because they don't want them to run and things like that. There are protections about stuff like that. Well, not like
But it's
this.
not.
Not
But
against
that's
illegalities and things that you've
right.
done
That's
wrong.
not
Right.
what is happening here. Is not just that they don't want him to run.
Right.
They could care less if he was running or not. It's because he committed acts
Actual crimes, they believe,
crimes.
allegedly, actual
Right.
crimes
That's
were
what I was trying
committed.
to get to. He right. Well, no, he's been indicted on them. So
Well, for
he has
several
been
of them, right?
indicted on crimes which denote to uh, bad character when
Mhm.
running as a presidential candidate.
Well,
Should we say that?
yes, we can. In the case is in Georgia, and he's not been indicted there. Well, that's what they're saying, is that if they do indict him, it'll be irreversible because it is about election fraud. But how can you run as a clean candidate for an election, you know, being charged with election fraud? You really shouldn't be able to. You would think common sense, it wouldn't work. But the one thing that Trump has proven through all of his campaigns is that, he can spin it. He's a great PR guy. He's going to spin it. He's going to have backers, and people just aren't going to look at what it actually means going forward. All right.
Well, it's,
People like to vote for the underdog too. The more he cries about being attacked and everything, the
no,
more
I disagree.
Actually,
I
his
disagree.
support numbers have not changed, Brilliant. I mean, common
No,
sense would
because
say,
common sense would say that if you are in a Republican Democrat country throughout the years where your family is Republic, never changed Democrat, or your family is Democrat, never changed Republic, the numbers will stay the same because you support the party and not the person.
well, then support your party by letting them know that you want your party to represent a person who actually represents the party in the right light.
And if that party does not bring forth the person that you feel represents you, you do not vote for that party. You make your support known by either not voting for that party or voting for the opposition party.
True.
Because the only way that this non-normal situation we are in, it is not normal.
There was a time when actual candidates were vetted to where if there was anything of a scandal anywhere, they wouldn't move them forward. But the parties aren't like that much anymore. There's been so much of one party against the other party.
Right, and the only way that these parties are going to actually listen is not by close elections, is not by 17,800 votes. It is only by that party receiving such a low vote count, they think, well, maybe our political ideas are not aligning with our constituents.
Oh, and that's the problem. Like, with the party system like that, people are just voting party, but there's got to be issues in there too. And a lot of times, they don't make forward what their platform is actually going to be. I have a hard time.
But they do.
Actually, the Democratic platform is very difficult to navigate right now. It really is. There's pros and cons. I mean, this is why I'm not affiliated with either side. And the Republican one too, because saying what it is and actually doing it are two different things, really, and you have to admit that. Like,
the Republicans have always said they were trying to repeal Roe v. Wade.
They also said they were the party of law and order.
Well, they are, as long as the law and order goes for them.
And yet, the last Republican president tried to dismantle every single department of law and regulation that we had: Ways and Means, CIA, FBI, all of it.
Because they were investigating him.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. I mean, how do you represent as a Republican, as the party of law and order, and not have Republicans themselves ask you to keep it in line? Like, you're not doing the party any good with this stuff. Like, that's what I don't see. The pushback saying, like, the Republican Party has a mission that they want to get through. Like, if you're not representing it properly, let's help out here. Like, because you need to put a better face forward for everyone and for our view outside of this country too. Like, that's what people forget, how we look to everybody else on the outside. They said, "Oh, we don't care, Claire. Like, we got to straighten out with ourselves here and all this first." Yes, but it actually does. How are we not if we don't have international relations on a respectable manner with everyone? How are we going to do
hang on. Because Biden has increased those
he has, but does he get any credit for it? No. He gets no credit for it. Whatever. Nobody even wants to talk about the jobs that he's done. How many more jobs are in effect?
13,800,000
Thank you, Verillion, because that number beats all of the presidencies, all of them,
in
Democratic
their
and
4-term
Republican.
years,
Yes.
in 2 years under Biden. But
Yep.
yes, but not only that, but we've got Republicans siding with a dictator oligarchy
Mm-hmm.
just to try and own the Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
We've
And I would
got
like to see, like, why? Like, why?
Republicans trying to pull the US out of the NATO treaty just to own the Democrats. They may have been a party of law and order, a party of patriotism, a party of
Mm-hmm.
world stage economics and military power,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
but they are no longer that anymore.
No, and I realized that because it just like, here's the thing, and this didn't just happen, Jujubee, right? We have now defeated the population so much that many don't believe that their vote matters, and it's been going on for quite a long time. I have actually heard that my whole life, and I've heard like members of my family actually pushing against it and saying it'll be true as long as we don't do anything about it. We have to stay active, but so many do feel defeated because one vote doesn't matter. A
The
million, 2
biggest
million, 3
con,
million does. Yeah.
the biggest con to get you out of a democracy is that being told your vote does not matter.
Right. So that's what I say. Why do they want us to feel that way, Jujubee? What do they don't want our voice to matter? Because they want to do what they want to do, which is why we have to get more involved. And that's all I have to say. If we don't want to lose that privilege and have it taken away, because the way things are going, they're taking everything else. How long before we don't have a voting system
Well,
for our voice to be heard?
right, and I will give you this because I know that current legislation, Roe versus Wade, was not the final step. It was
It's
one
not.
of them.
Mhm.
Another step is repealing women's suffrage.
Well, that's going on right now. They want to repeal our right to vote. How do you feel about that? Like, what? What? Mm. Eh.
The whole thing is not a swamp.
I agree with her. It kind of is.
I don't. I think that, well, I think that the people saying that drain the swamp are the ones that are part of the swamp.
True, because it's only politicians that say that. Well, let's just do something good. We were actually happy that the truth was put into Congress and read into the record about the filings from Judge Kaplan in regards to the lawsuit against Trump. But at the same time, did not that Democratic representative do that as a swipe against the Republicans instead of actually trying to make a point? It wasn't done in a committee that was actually going to push laws forward to change the legislation in regards to how this situation happened. And that's what I mean by a swamp. And I think that's what Grace means too. They don't do it the right way.
Tell me a current committee in the Congress currently.
There's not. There isn't. There isn't.
Right. And which of those committees are headed up? Who heads them?
I understand what you're saying, Brilliant. He didn't have a vehicle. But I'm saying, instead of saying try to create that, it just doesn't look good. That's what we mean by swamp. It's just people swiping at people for agenda however that they can, and it contributes to that swamp-like environment where nothing's going to get done. Everything's just bogged down by the he said, she said, and I'm against this and you're against that, and nobody can ever meet in the middle. I think that's kind of what Grace was alluding to, and I kind of agree with her on both sides, because although Biden still had plenty of good things going on that nobody will talk about that's actually getting done, he wasn't my choice either. Okay, I didn't want someone of that age.
I agree.
Yeah,
but then I agree. There needs to be a whole drafting of the.
it's true.
Well, basically, the whole politician system, not political system, but politician system
Yeah.
where things like donation limits, things like corporation involvement, things, right? Things like actually voting on things the people want. 76% of the population didn't want Roe v. Wade overturned. So that's 24% that got their way.
And that's kind of like, but it is actually the
Voting
strict.
age term limits, exactly, Mrs. Cassandra. I believe there should be term limits.
There should, and there should be also parameters and regulations, and a lot of those have been destroyed. We originally started with laws against lobbying, with laws against actual being able to invest in this and that in any kind of company. There was strict laws. Ways and Means used to actually take care of that. There were whole systems set up to check for it. That's all been dismantled over the last 15 years, all of it. Okay, and that's
Right.
what's leading to the problem. There's no accountability. People that destroy the means of doing accountability under the guise that it saves money. I would say you might have destroyed those committees and saved money, but you're not saving money, because if you look at the climate now and see what bills they've actually put on the floor, it's putrid. The stuff that they haven't even, in the 4 years before Biden got in, they didn't even bring anything to the floor with Trump and everything. And the years that Obama was there, they did everything they could not to bring anything to the floor, instead of doing their job. And we vote them in. And what it is that if we really do have the power, then we need to vote them out. It stop this politics thing, because the election that they're going against, trying to overturn, if it's true that it's actually almost common. I do know what Liam's referring to as the surveys, because I've looked at them. Statistics say that you never really get 50% of the people to vote anyway. You never do. Like, people just don't. Okay. And that's everywhere. Okay. But the last election to overturn Trump, more people than not came forward. The numbers were astronomical. And so for them to go against particular election says something to me. Yeah.
And yet the difference in popular vote was only how many? 9 million?
Yes. 9 million.
Out of 330 million people. If you take 50% of that, out of 150 million people.
Oh, well, then not all, not everyone voted.
Not a very large difference.
But that shows you the great divide in our country, and it shows you the frustration of our country. Why people are voting the way they are is out of sheer frustration and wanting a different way. Nobody likes the way it is. I think I would stand on that as a statement for almost everybody in our country right now. Not everybody likes the way it is. We do not like what's going on.
I believe there's a good quote. I can't remember who said it, but nobody likes democracy, but it's the best we've got.
It is the bit, and that's what we have, and we're trying to deal with the system that we have, and it's frustrating, and it's like everybody feels like it doesn't count when we vote, and this. I mean, I get it. I feel that frustration, Juju, Grace, all of you. I feel it every day. Like, you can see something's wrong, you can try to do something about it, and it just keeps carrying on. And all I can say is that there is a way to contact. You start with your local government. There's a way to try to get your voice out there. It's the only thing we have. It's the only tool we have.
Even just talking to your friends about it is a way to do it. If you can talk to your friends about, hey, look, I'm really concerned about what's happening in my local government. Right? Why is this happening here? And like, confide in them a little bit.
Grace, I think anyone convicted of a crime currently can't vote until they actually, in most places, actually serve out their term and do what they have to.
Anyone incarcerated, yes.
And we're not talking about that they do have the right to vote. They do currently right now, but they are talking about appealing women's suffrage, which gave women the right to vote, because that actually had to get written into the Constitution for us to be able to do it. And also, they are talking about, there's much legislation going on about the gerrymandering problem that happened, which closed down voting sites in many underprivileged areas, which left the underprivileged and mostly not the privileged people able to vote in a convenient way. In other, we're talking hundreds of miles between voting stations to where they couldn't get to. So they're fighting against that. And that's in all states all over. It's not just a red or a blue problem. It's kind of both. Okay, in trying to do things, and basically there's a lot of back and forth about the structuring of that system to control who gets the vote and how those votes will go. Because you're right, in the US, other than some felons, who has the right to vote removed? Currently nobody. But you have to admit there's legislation going forward to make many people or not have the same rights that we do. But currently the voting right is still there, at least for me right now. But there are people
No one,
actively petitioning to take it away.
right? No one's saying that a citizen has had their
No
vote
one.
to
No
taken
one
away.
currently. No one currently. But they are making it
Right.
more difficult for them to do. Their right to vote absolutely is still there. Their ability to vote may be compromised because they changed. We've got instances with people who never actually had a photo ID because they never drove, to where somebody who voted in the same place, somebody that's like 80 years old, has the signature on file, had multiple forms of ID, but no picture ID, but was standing in front of them and could prove their signature and was not allowed to vote. Yeah, it's weird. Like they're changing the voting laws in certain ways, and it's hard to make it fair for everyone. I understand that. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Grace. I just wanted to make sure you got answered, love, because like I don't want to ignore anyone.
Look,
You
I
know.
can agree that there are countries around the world who have taken away the right to vote, but that is not happening in the US at the
It's not.
moment.
It's not.
Uh,
I'm
However,
shocked.
there is an effort to be able to reduce the ability to vote.
Mhm. No, we're definitely not immune to that problem, Liam. We are definitely immersed in the "my vote won't matter, so I won't bother" problem. It is a common statement. I hear it almost every day from someone. Like the
Yeah.
"why bother? It's not going to matter." I hear it constantly. And the other thing, I was chuckling, not at you, Verian, but it's something the Rocket Couch said in the chat. It just caught my eye that he's ready for the machine uprising. He wants all the politicians to be replaced by robots. Like they're not going to do any better. They're just going to get rid of us all.
Look, if
Like
they do, if
the
the
Rocket
robots,
Couch.
if we vote with the robots using the NPC chat, then
Mhm,
humanity may as well just be
mhm.
lost.
It is true. And I'm going to end on this one for you. I'm going to give you the last say. Is there anything about our two cases that you want out there or that we didn't talk about that you want to say?
Um, Only that may justice, whatever that may be swift.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that it will be a lesson for many decades to come
Mm-hmm.
on and as believe it or not, it is a very historical moment that
Mm-hmm.
will dictate the course of the US as a country for many, many, many years, generations, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, let's hope we learn from it.
Yeah, hopefully, if they'll allow us to actually be, talk about the history and what's going on. Yeah, that's the problem. Um, um, Here's another thing, Juju. I like this comment a lot because I actually agree with this pretty much. And one other you made, that many people are just too busy struggling to even figure out what the F we're voting about. I would say that it is important and we do have to take the time, but I understand the struggle. She also thinks that people are exhausted and feel like everything is a scam. So they are exhausted and unable to determine what voting for each person or law actually means. Exactly. That is so messed up at this point that it's so it
Yeah,
just start small is all I can say. Start
it's
small. Start with
it's
one
hard,
issue. If you have one issue that means a lot to you, take that one
right?
issue and look at every candidate with that issue in mind and address their voting history, what they did, what anything. And I'm just talking locally too. Just one issue that actually matters to you. Address it one step at a time. It's too much to do all of it. It is because
Right.
the whole system is it it's so messed up. But I can only say how I do it so I can actually keep myself invested into what people are doing. And I have certain things that I want to know what certain candidates are going to do about it, because I want to see things change in the future in certain areas. I've had to narrow it down. Of course, I want change everywhere. I want everybody to be treated equally, and all of us to have a right to life and liberty, and to be able to live not paycheck to paycheck, and be healthy, have adequate health care, have adequate education, not have books burned or history denied, have intelligent conversation without hurting other people just because you don't agree. I mean, I know I'm naive. Well, yeah, these are all the things. I know I can't vote that into every choice when I go Republican or Democratic. I know I can't. But I could pick
Yeah.
one issue. Like I could pick the issue as far as the way certain laws are written, and see if anybody's going on that,
Yep. Local elections matter. School boards matter.
Yes. Record says he feels like he needs a PhD to understand what to do when voting. And I get that. I get that. And that's why I say one step at a time. Pick one thing that irks you in the climate now, and just look at your candidates through that eye,
Yeah.
Wow, Jujubee, not even judges, right? Like I do, especially Jujubee. We got to talk about that other judge, man. I can't wait to do that. Like, whoa, there's so much going on. But on that, brilliant, thanks for doing this. Now I feel like I got some of my political angst out for the day. I might even have an enjoyable weekend. Look at that. Until Sunday when I gotta talk. Until I talk about Sunday when I get to talk about Pearl Davis, or we do the Ukraine update. But tomorrow we're going to be doing What the Fuckery on the channel, and we've got a couple of topics there. And on that one, we're a little lighter about it. There might be politics, but we're usually poking fun at that time. What the Fuckery is how we all get our black humor out in regards to all the situations going on. And actually, brilliant, Deaf Noodles popped up. Yeah, I'm gonna have fun tomorrow. Just a little preview. Yeah.
What time is it tomorrow?
10 o'clock. 10 o'clock Eastern time, actually.
10 o'clock Eastern.
Yes, 10 o'clock Eastern. So for you, that would be 12 o'clock Sunday afternoon. I will be having a blast in the middle of the night. But, oh wait, you know what? You didn't even yell at me. I never had my banner up or nothing, but that's it. Everybody, you know what to do. Those of you that actually like having these conversations or just hanging out in the chat and saying hey or whatever, the YouTube likes to keep us in. I would like to get to the algorithm for some of my other stuff, especially the political stuff, into the true crime. So if you could like and share or talk about the channel somewhere, share it wherever, or bring other topics or other people that want to have discussions, I'm all open for it. But on that, I think we can just close this off. And I thank you, all of you in the chat, for adding to the discussion. And thank you to my moderators for being so cool all the time and being on point. And to everybody who has joined and supported the channel as we move forward to our mission to a new computer and donating in still some places. We're still making our regular donations to the Trevor Foundation. But I haven't done huge donations because, as you know, I'm putting most of the money that's coming through into the new potato fund. Even though there was an upgrade to the potato, now we need a different potato because there's more we want to do. But thank you all. Thank you, Verillion. This was fun. You got a headache?
I enjoyed it. No, I enjoyed it.
Good. Good. You enjoyed it? Then they'll come back again. We'll do some more. And hi, thank you for the information. You're always so good with this stuff. I can't wait to do another one with you too. You're welcome all the time. And everybody, my DMs are open. If you have topics, you know how to reach me. Just go back to the about on the channel and you will see all of my contact information. And I'll be there if you want to talk about it. Thanks, Verillion. This was fun. You're right. This was actually kind of fun. Yep.
See you all next time.
Yep. See you again soon, people.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Justice requires us to remember when any citizen denies his fellow, saying his color is not mine, or his beliefs are strange and different. In that moment, he betrays America.
Be nice and patient and continue to pray in 100 or 200 years, the problem will work itself out.
I believe that truth is the glue that holds government together. Not only our government, but civilization itself.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished, and the rights of one man are threatened.
America is never wholly herself unless she is engaged in high moral principle. We as a people have such a purpose today. It is to make kinder the face of the nation and gentler the face of the world.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Through much of the last century, America's faith in freedom and democracy was a rock in a raging sea.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.